Hey guys, this is Dmitry with Hard Rock Knux and welcome back to another review. NZXT, as you probably already know, produces some of the best value for money and functional chassis. They're kind of like fractal design in a way where they stick to the same formula for internal layout and features and really don't skimp on anything. Their source line is their designated budget series, but surprisingly without that many compromises. So this is the Source 530, carrying a very attractive price point of $90. Now design-wise, it's nothing special. The angular window showcases the interior. Perhaps we could see a little bit less of the optical area. And knowing NZXT that love their angles and corners, the front panel corners have the bent look. Almost makes you wonder if that's something from shipping. The panel is perforated with 3 optical drive slots, 2 USB 3 and audio jacks, plus an LED light behind the NZXT logo on the left and top right for when the machine is turned on. Now, power and reset buttons are located on the right side along with the rear I/O LED light that's built into the case. Now, I don't particularly mind the location of these buttons, but I do prefer them on either the top or the front for a more convenient access. Behind the panel, we find a removable dust filter with only a small mesh cutouts and the rest lots of plastic. I'm not sure why they just didn't stick to the standard sort of all mesh design. And on our model, the fan filter didn't want to sit in place. It is attached with clips, and because of the thick plastic, the filter was slightly warped and always popped out of the clips. I never managed to place the filter back, and that's sort of unfortunate. But on a more positive note, front fan support is excellent with 120, 140 and 200mm mounts. Plus you see the additional circular cutouts for the larger fans, so there's no wasted cooling potential. And as you also see, there's no front fans included, but we do get 120mm rear and top exhaust. Moving on to the top, we get triple 120mm fan support or dual 140s, and the strips cutout will allow more flexibility for maneuvering your fans or radiators at the top, which we don't see quite often. Unfortunately though, we don't get any dust filters for the top, and while it's most likely to be used for exhaust, a chassis is still not fully dust proof until we get all sides covered. Now, speaking of dust filters though, the Source 530 includes 2 large filters at the bottom, one for the power supply and the other for the 2 optional fan mounts, and also the case stands on rubberized feet for all the stability and vibration-free goodness. At the rear we get another flexible fan mount, 8 PCI slots and water cooling holes, plus a bottom mounted power supply. Now, the Source 530 is a large case with the identical internal dimensions as the Phantom 530, with a slightly smaller footprint as it has less exterior plastics. And taking off the thumb screws, I noticed small rubber washers, just extra noise preventative measures, and removing both side panels. The Source 530 has an identical interior as the P530, but without the rubber grommets. We still have the angular fan bracket for additional airflow for both 120 and 140mm fans, and fully modular drive cage system, so there's a lot of flexibility depending on how you want your cabling to look or just want to free up some room for the front intake. Cages are secured with thumb screws at the back and still utilize those flimsy plastic drive caddies. And one very annoying thing is the SSDs are mounted in the middle but at the back of the bracket, so routing all your cables may be a bit challenging. Removing the bottom cage support, you can utilize a 240mm radiator at the bottom. As you can see, there's plenty of room without compromising on your drive storage. And if you have a thicker radiator or want to do push and pull, removing the smaller cage and still you're good to go. Also, with the standard 240mm radiator at the bottom, power supply compatibility is limited to about 170mm, but if you just want to utilize the bottom slots for additional fan intake, you do get that extra bit of clearance. The radiator can also be installed at the front, but in this case you do lose out on all of your drive storage. Long graphics card support is not an issue at all here, with 12 inches of clearance and 11 inches with the angular fan bracket populated. And turning the case around, NZXT has made sure to supply many cable tie mounts, which are all scattered around, and while it is a budget version of the P530, it's still unfortunate we don't see any rubber grommets. They have, however, kept a 10 fan hub, plus an SSD bracket that is always a bonus to see. There's also so much room at the rear for all your cable work. As you see, there's almost 1.5 inches, and that's another reason why the Source 530 is so appealing for enthusiasts on a budget. And starting with the assembly, we go through our usual routine with the reference build, and to no surprise, the case stacks up really well with clean cable work, and I always appreciate the extra cutouts underneath the motherboard. And say your GPU doesn't allow clearance for that fan on the bracket, no problem, relocate the drive cage to the very bottom and you can still utilize the fan. At the back, thanks to the ample room for all your cables, I didn't even use any cable tie mounts, but as you can see, it screams for more. And there's a huge potential here when it comes to enthusiast systems. And I will conclude by saying that the Source 530 is an outstanding chassis with a really practical and functional internal layout. I love the angular fan bracket, the brilliant drive cage system, cable management plus the amazing water cooling options, and the extra SSD bracket and the fan hub are all features you don't usually expect to find on such a value case. But of course, corners had to be cut to hit that amazing price tag, so only 2 fans are included, we don't have any rubber grommets, there's no dust filter for the top, and a really poor hinge system for the front dust filter, but that could just be our sample. But regardless of these flaws, we're still giving the Source 530 a damn good value award, as for $90, it brings a whole lot of functionality for the user. So guys, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.